The safety squat bar industry has officially been put on notice because this new safety squat bar from Rep is completely legit. And in this video, I'm going to show you why. Hey friends, Adam here with Garage Gym Lab, and I'm excited to share this video because, like you, I've been anxiously awaiting this bar with great excitement since it was first teased what feels like years ago. Now, for those of you who have been following for any amount of time, you know that I'm a huge fan of safety squat bars and what they bring to the table. As someone who owns most of the big names, including the Elite FTS SS Yoke bar, the Titan V2, the Titan Elite, the Bells of Steel SS3, the Mars bar, and probably even some more, I have a pretty good idea of what makes a good safety squat bar and what makes a not so great safety squat bar. This new bar from Rep has taken a few of my favorite features from some other safety squat bars and combined it with a few of its own unique features to create what is, in my opinion, now going to become the best traditional safety squat bar for most people in terms of function to dollars. So let's start with a few basics. I'm not going to cover all of the benefits of a safety squat bar. If you're interested, you can certainly check out this video to learn a little bit more. But in a nutshell, this specialty bar promotes a more neutral position, which helps alleviate some pain and discomfort in the upper body while utilizing a unique camber that wants to pitch you forward, thereby building the upper back and hammering the quads. There's actually a lot that goes into creating a high quality and well-balanced safety squat bar. Things like pad density, pad comfort, vinyl quality, camber angle, camber drop, handle length, bar weight, bar finish, sleeve size, and more all contribute in making an SSB what it is. And because of the sheer number of factors that go into creating one, there haven't been that many winners in this niche bar market. Most that have hit with the winning bar have largely been modeled after the classic design of the Elite FTS SS Yoke bar, which is certainly one of my favorites. This bar is no exception, and while there are a few bars who have incorporated their own touches, it feels to me like Rep has gone even a step further. This bar has a great balance, a comfortable yoke, a nice finish, hard chrome, smooth, Olympic-sized sleeves, and removable, thick, knurled steel handles. So let's go through each of these. I'll detail the things that I like about it, as well as a couple of areas of improvement and opportunity. The one area that absolutely has to be right on a safety squat bar is balance. And I gotta give Rep a lot of credit here because this bar is virtually a dead ringer to the balance of the Elite bar, and it does a better job than some of the other traditional safety squat bars that I've used. Whether loaded or unloaded, this bar sits on the shoulders and it requires no effort to keep it there. On some other bars, there may be a tendency for that bar to want to roll back when it's unloaded, and while that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to fall off your back when it is loaded, it's a relative comparison to balance, and it may influence some of the movements that you might be performing where you're not using your hands, like Hatfield squats. If you are a big Hatfield squatter, you'll really appreciate the balance that this bar offers. This bar achieves its balance in a few different ways. Most importantly is that it matches the 22-degree camber angle that you'll find on the Elite, as well as a few other bars, including the Titan V2. Equally as important, though, is that it matches the camber drop on the Elite. Oftentimes, other bars will have a shorter camber drop, and being that this is a direct contributor to the overall balance of a safety squat bar, I'm surprised that it's taken this long for a company to match it. And lastly, this pad is not too thick, nor is it too thin, which keeps the bar very well positioned and takes us to our next talking point. Let's call a spade a spade. There's nothing special, nothing unique, nothing revolutionary about this yoke. Like others, it mimics the Elite bar almost to a T. However, there is one interesting thing about this yoke, and that's that it ships separately, whereas other bars include them pre-installed. I'm not sure if this does much in terms of preventing damage during shipping, but it does seem like this was a decision to hopefully reduce the likelihood of that happening, considering this is a heavy bar. My pad did arrive in perfect condition, but it also arrived over a 2-day span instead of only 1 day, which may or may not be abnormal. Being that the pad ships separately, it does require some assembly, but it's very easy. All you need to do is rack the bar and insert the pad from the bottom. Once it's in position, simply secure the Velcro and you're ready to go. One thing I quickly noticed is that this yoke uses a different looking foam than the carpet pad looking foam on other bars, and I generally like the way that it feels. The vinyl is a very similar story. Most budget-friendly safety squat bars use the same highly textured and stiffer vinyl, which is okay, but it's not nearly as supple as the Elite SS Yoke vinyl, which to me is the gold standard for safety squat bars. The rep bar is again somewhere in between. It's more supple, more comfortable, and seems to be a higher quality vinyl than some of the others. For example, when you press against the stiffer vinyls, you'll see the material form clear lines. On the softer rep vinyl, this really doesn't exist. Outside of that, this is a pretty standard yoke design with consistent dimensions, including roughly an 8-inch internal width and 10-inch shoulder extensions. Coming out of these extensions, however, is one of the most unique features of this bar. The handles on this bar are one of my favorite things about it. The obvious distinction between these handles and others is that these are knurled steel. The knurling is fairly moderate, but it does lean a little bit more aggressive than it does passive, despite having a bright chrome finish. The volcanic pattern appears to be consistently machined when looking close up, and it feels really good in the hand. Of course, grip isn't a limiting factor on a safety squat bar, but I do prefer the feeling of the knurling over traditional handles. I'll also add that these are 38 millimeters thick, and they extend out 7 inches from the yoke, making them indeed very well endowed. Like other handle systems, these handles are removable, so you can perform things like JM presses. But I think that this is an opportunity for rep. I'm a big fan of swapping out handles. I made an entire video on this very subject where you can create some fun and challenging handle systems yourself. And while that's possible with this rep bar, since it's threaded, the handles are far more recessed into the yoke. You can tell as much by looking at these pictures and showing the relative length compared to some of the other handles on the market. So because of that, you're going to need longer threaded eye bolts, which are going to add some expense and which may be more difficult to find compared to these that I use on my Elite bar, for instance. Better even, I'd love to see Rep offer different handles entirely, whether they're as options or they're included in the package. One of my favorite features of the Bells of Steel SS3 is that they give you 3 different handle options. So if Rep can do something similar and keep this knurled finish, I think that they can separate themselves even more. After all, not everybody's a big fan of these shorter fixed handles. So we already talked about these handles having a bright chrome finish, but let's talk about the main finish of this bar, which is a glossy metallic black powder coat. Out of the box, this finish looks fantastic, and it's unique relative to some of the other safety squat bars. Unfortunately, safety squat bars have a pretty bad rap in the finish department. The Elite FTS SS Yoke bar has one of the worst finishes of any bar out there. The chrome on the Titan V2 looks and feels decorative, and the black zinc on the Bells of Steel SS3 and the Titan Elite leave something to be desired. Those bars also look great coming out of the box, so it's going to be interesting to see how this one fares over time. Ultimately, powder coat is always going to be susceptible to scuffing, chipping, and showing general signs of wear and tear. I do recommend using sandwich cups over standard if you've got them. That's going to keep your finish looking better over the long term. I'll also add that this metallic, glossy powder coat looks a lot more premium than the standard textured black powder coat that you would find on something like the Rogue safety squat bar. Thankfully, Rep didn't carry this finish through to the sleeves, unlike some other companies, rather electing for a hard chrome finish that's much more consistent with traditional bars. Aside from the chrome finish, there's a few other things to note about these sleeves. First is that they're Olympic size, so you're free to use any collar that you like. Most companies outside of Elite offer this now, so it's not really unique, but it's definitely nice to have. The second thing is that these are smooth sleeves, which I greatly prefer. I just don't like the sound of groove sleeves, and I know that this is pretty controversial, and some of you out there love groove sleeves, so you may see this as a downside, and all I can say to that is not only are you wrong, but you're a certified psychopath. And lastly, the sleeves are slightly shorter than some of the others out there at under 16 inches. I don't think that this is going to be a big deal for most people. And I actually think that it makes sense to go shorter, being that this bar is already longer and heavier than most. On the ends of the bars are some nice looking laser cut Rep caps, but they're really oddly oriented. At first I thought that they did this to have the text be level when you're actually using the bar, but that turned out to not be the case, so they're just always crooked. If you've got OCD like me, this may bother you. Outside of that though, I'm a big fan of these sleeves in general. Something else to consider about this bar is its size. I mentioned a moment ago that it's longer at 92.5 inches and it's heavier at 68 pounds than most. This length was intentional, however, to create a wider collar-to-collar spread so that it fits better in wider racks. If you've got a 47-inch rack like I do from Rep, it's gonna be more than enough room, but if you've got a 49-inch rack from Rogue, for instance, this is gonna fit a little bit better than some of the competing bars. The downside to a longer and heavier bar is that it's a little bit more unwieldy to move around, and depending on your physical gym space, it may actually be too long. When you put it all together, I think that Rep has built a real winner of an SSB. To me, this is the first safety squat bar that truly feels like it matches the balance and the feel of the highly regarded Elite FTS SS Yoke bar. The comfortable yoke pad and vinyl, the knurled handles, and the smooth hard chrome sleeves are other standout features that, in my eyes, make meaningful differences compared to some of the other bars out there. At $399 shipped, the price seems very fair to me. This is quite a bit less expensive than the Elite FTS bar once you factor in shipping, but it is more expensive than the very popular Titan V2. I do think, however, that price premium is justified because, as far as I'm concerned, this bar is better in every category except for price. Now, I'm not suggesting that you necessarily go out and sell your Titan V2 because at the end of the day, that is a good bar at a fantastic value. But if you're somebody out there who's looking to maybe decide between these two bars and you have a little extra cash to spend, this is the bar that I would recommend. Safety squat bars are kind of my jam, so make sure to check out this video comparing the Titan V2 to the Elite FTS if you'd like a closer look at those two bars. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. Until then, be well, and we'll chat soon.